Hello, Salt Strong Nation. Joe Simons, like diamonds. We are back again. Got Luke and Captain Jay O'Brien, Irish Wake Fishing. What's up, guys?
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You got a big old triple tail behind your head, and how fitting. We're talking about triple tail today.
One of my favorites, especially for the old bringing home for dinner. One of those really hard to beat, some triple tail plays, but they're just flat out fun too. A lot of sight fishing. So I'm excited to hear about how Jay's doing it and an awesome tournament he has going as well.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about some tips, spend a little time on where to find triple tail. In his tournament, by the way, is 6 months, so we can't just talk about 1 month. We're gonna have to cover some ground here, talk about different lures and baits to throw at them. And then any other little tactics, strategies to have more consistent lines with triple tail. And then we'll talk about this really cool 6-month tournament that I'm quite interested in. And I hope there's going to be some big prizes for 6 months. So we'll find out here in just a little bit. So let's kind of give the background, Captain Jay. Where did you grow up? What's the history? You being on the water and catching lots of fish.
Well, I got my start, believe it or not, down in y'all's neck of the woods, Crystal River, Florida. My grandparents lived down there, and I used to go spend a week in the summertime down there with them every summer. And my grandfather, he was a seafood importer and an avid fisherman. And when I went down there, that's all we did the whole time. And so I kind of got the bug that way. And then my father, he wasn't as avid of an angler, but he recognized my passion for it. So he would take me out with his friends or hire a guide or whatnot as I was growing up, and just kind of got the bug that way. And I was working in Las Vegas right out of college and decided to come home because I love the outdoors, whether it's hunting or fishing, and I missed it here. So I decided to come back home, and that's when I really started to, work on fishing. I bought my first boat as a small boat and learned a lot of lessons, and just had to do a lot of teaching because I didn't come from a family of, 3 generations of fishermen. So it's been an interesting journey that way.
It's too cool. And what's the main city that you're guiding out of now?
I fish out of Mobile Bay, which is on the Alabama coast. It's around the city of Mobile, and then we've got Dolphin Island at one side of the mouth of the bay, and then the Fort Morgan, Gulf Shores, Orange Beach Peninsula on the other side of the mouth of the bay. And basically we got Mobile Bay and the Mississippi Sounds, our 2 major inshore bodies of water.
Cool. So when did you get into triple tail? That was a species that it took me a while to get into. I did a lot of like redfish, snook, trout, and triple tail is fairly new to me, but it's quickly becoming one of my favorites. How did you get into targeting triple tail?
Yeah, I started out much like you, more or less trout fishing and red fishing. And then I started to see these fish every once in a while that people were catching, and they started to pique my interest. And back when I first started fishing for them, it was like a cult. I don't know how it was down where y'all are from, but around here it was like a cult following. I mean, there was a handful of people that targeted them, and they did not talk about it, and they much less they did not share information about where they were catching them, how they were catching them, or any of that. So I had to do a lot of learning, a lot of tough years of being frustrated, and then after putting in, I always tell people when I give a triple tail seminar. I asked them, who wants to catch triple tail? Everybody raised their hands. I said, who likes lighting $100 bills on fire? And then they all put their hands down and said, well, if you don't like that, you're not going to like triple tail fishing. That's about what it's equivalent to once you get addicted and you start having to run that boat all over the place looking for them.
Yes, like find a needle in a haystack some days. Offline, he showed us he had a mountain of monster triple tail. What did you say it was 29 pounds?
29.9 pounds.
Huge. And that was in Alabama?
That was called Mobile Bay. Yeah. And for whatever reason, we get a lot of big fish that move into our fishery from time to time. I'm not sure how it is down where y'all are from. I've heard of some places down on the Florida coast that kind of get the same thing, but it's weird to see how it can vary from region to region.
So were you sight fishing that thing? If I saw one that big, there's no way I would get a good cast on it. I'm sure I'd be way too nervous. Like, did you see it, or were you just fishing a channel marker or something?
That one I was just fishing a channel marker, but we've caught one that big that we've seen, and you're right, it definitely adds a degree of difficulty knowing he's there, and you got to make the right cast without spooking them.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure when there's a giant fish like that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I had a 12-year-old little boy with me last year, and he was a stick. He was a better angler than his father and brother. And we pulled up on one, and I got down from my half tower, and I guess I looked kind of ghost white. And the brother goes, "What's wrong? Is there one under that piece of plywood?" I said, "No, that's the fish." And the little boy, he didn't miss a beat. He went up there and cast it right where he needed to be, and got the bait in front of the fish. It hit. I was like, "It's on." He didn't realize it was on. And he finally, after about the third time yelling at him, he got the hook in it, and the fish was green. I was filming the whole thing. The fish was green, swimming straight at the boat. And I jumped down real quick, and I actually got a net shot on it before it even knew it was hooked. And I looked at him. He wasn't that happy. It was about a 26-pounder. And I said, "What's wrong with you? You got a trophy right there." He goes, "Well, I just wanted to fight him." I said, "Do you see how little this hook is in its mouth?" I said, "If you had fought that fish, you would have lost him." And then he saw later how hard they could fight, and he said, "Okay, I understand what you're talking about now."
That's so cool. What a memory on there. That's awesome. All right, so let's talk about the wear. Luke already kind of teased channel markers. What are you looking for, and in hopes that you don't have to spend hundreds on gas finding them? What are your go-to types of spots, types of
Well, I'm
structures?
interested to hear what Luke's doing too. But so around here, because I know y'all have a much different environment than we do. But, I mean, we got channel markers. Crabbing is a big industry here, so we have a lot of crab balls out in the water. We get a lot of seasonal rain, so we'll have flooding events that will break logs and different debris from the shoreline that'll get out into the bay. I mean, just basically any kind of structure. They're, for whatever reason, they're structure-oriented fish, and they like to hang close to that structure. So we've got artificial reefs that have got structure. I mean, heck, last year I was trout fishing on a natural gas platform, and I saw my customer's cork kind of moving squirrely. I said, "Check up. I think you got a fish." He said, "No, I don't have fish." I said, "Yeah, something's going on." And he started reeling down on it. All of a sudden, it shot out from the natural gas rig, and we caught it on a light trout tackle by the grace of God. But so any vertical structure or floating debris. I mean, we caught them off dead pigs floating down out of the Mobile Tensile Delta before, or armadillos or dead pelicans. It's crazy. But just anything in the water that they want to hang next to something. I mean, you catch them free floating occasionally down here. I don't know how it is where y'all are, but they tend to be real skittish when they're free floating.
Yep, same here. I've only caught one free floater, and otherwise it's always either on a crab trap or channel marker, some sort of fixed object.
Was that the end of last year at Island Rana? Is that one?
Yeah, that was the only one. The wind was cranking, and just somehow got very lucky.
One time we were catching bait, making bait for a snapper trip, and throwing the cast net, catching pogies, and all of a sudden it looked like a trash bag popped up beside us. I said, "Give me one of those pogies," and I threw it out there on the free line to it, and it came up, and I mean, it just came out of the water almost, like a tarpon, and just pounded it and hit it so hard I had to open the bail so it didn't rip it out of its mouth. And that was pretty cool. That was the coolest free line one I've ever caught.
That's awesome. They're a mean fish. And so lately, have you been seeing a more? It sounds like you're doing a lot of the fishing in the bay. So where I am, I'm in Tampa Bay, or I'm in St. Pete and fishing a lot of Tampa Bay. It seems like most of the ones I've been seeing lately have actually been off, like out of the bay and into the Gulf, like just in the crab trap buoys. I know they do come in inshore a decent amount as well, but are you getting them mostly in the bays or out in the Gulf, or kind of a mix between the two?
So we catch them out in the Gulf some, but we target them mostly inshore in the bays. But it's a little different than I think y'all have more of a year-round fishery, whereas they don't move in here until late spring, early summer, and then as soon as we start getting a cold front pushed through, then they'll kind of push back out. I actually worked with a researcher last year. We did some satellite tagging, and it was cool. You could see them kind of, once those cold fronts started pushing through, they kept pushing further and further south. And they were trying to figure out if they're going down to y'all's area around Tampa, or if they're going over to Texas, or which direction they were headed. And we started to get some data, but then they kind of went dark. I don't know if they were getting close enough to the surface when the satellite was overhead or what, but we never got any conclusive evidence of which direction they headed. So we're going to have to probably try to do it again this year.
That's cool.
Very, very interesting.
Do y'all have a year-round fishery down there for them?
Yeah, I mean, those months you mentioned seems to be the best, but yeah, I've kind of been seeing them again. It's kind of been more sporadic in the winter, but I'll see them here and there. But I feel like spring and fall, kind of my two favorites, and really the summer, I guess they're around as well. But again, for me, I'm pretty new to it, so it's just been a lot of it for me. I'm not targeting them. I'll just keep an eye out when I'm going from spot to spot, and always look for that. Like you mentioned, looks like a trash bag, and anything under a buoy that looks anywhere close to the shape of a triple tail, they'll sit sideways. For anybody who hasn't seen one before, they basically sit that flat side up, and it's just a lot of fun. They're a really aggressive little fish too. So we've even had them where they'll hit like 10 feet away. They're not very scared.
They'll fool you. They'll act sleepy, and then all of a sudden they'll get real aggressive.
Yep.
Yeah. So what do you prefer, lures or some type of bait or shrimp?
So, if I'm running a charter, I'm usually using live or dead shrimp. Sometimes if, that's not available, I'll cast net some pogies or croakers and use those. Now, if I'm fun fishing for myself, I've done a lot of experimenting with lures. I mean, I've caught them on anything from top waters to slick lures to shrimp imitation. If I didn't have a shrimp, just a fake shrimp. It's a lot more challenging, it feels like, to catch them on the artificial, but it is possible. And I guess that's why, I kind of like to do that, see if I can trick them into hitting it, because they are a lazy fish. So you kind of almost got to get it to sit there in front of them to where they decide they want to hit it or mad enough to hit it.
Yeah, I feel like if you get it in front of their face, at least the ones we have in Tampa with, we've had a lot of luck with that Power Prawn and the Power Prawn Junior are shrimp molds, and then a little 5-inch jerk shad as well. I feel like if you get in front of their face, they're usually going to hit it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was
something like that.
Yeah, I've caught my biggest ones on this. It's a Alabama. It's a 5-inch jerk shad. It's called Alabama Leprechaun on a weighted hook, and that way you can rig it weedless, and I can just get real aggressive and get it right. Go across the rope if I have to and not get snagged. And yeah, it's all about getting within like 6 inches of their mouth. If you can get it 6 inches with their mouth and give a little twitch, even if they're not hungry, they'll just come up and smack it. It's the only fish I've ever had that actually bit my hand when I went down to the live well to grab it. I've never had a fish like literally go after my hand before. That's just a mean fish.
Yeah.
And so just get right in their face, and they'll just hit out of the blue, even for 5-10 feet away. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, it's nuts. One time I had one, he literally freight trained towards the bow of the boat, hit the bait, and 5 feet off the bow, and then cut a 90-degree turn and almost yanked the rod out of my customer's hand.
Wow. So Luke just had the Alabama Leprechaun. Are you familiar? Or have you ever been to Crichton, Alabama?
I was about to say, yeah, I grew up not far from Crichton. I know the story behind y'all naming that. I always thought that was pretty cool. Y'all need to rename it the Crichton Leprechaun.
Oh my gosh, that skit was so funny.
It's still to this day, people wear those shirts and talk about that.
I want to know where the gold's at. Show me the gold. Sorry, I had to bring it up since we got an Alabama native here.
Very relevant.
So, time of year, obviously you got a 6-month tournament coming up. Is there a month where your confidence is sky high, saying, all right, this is my month? Like, what's the best time of year up in your neck of the woods?
I used to think there were certain months that were better than others. And now the more that I've fished for them, I don't know that it's necessarily true. I think it's more condition based. If you have the right conditions, the bait's there, the water quality's good, it feels like they'll push in, and a big wave could push in. The fishing could be really good right after that. And vice versa, if you don't have a lot of bait around and the water's like on our system, that's a little different than y'all's. I don't know how much outflow y'all have, but we drain a pretty large portion of the southeast through our bay. If our water quality goes down, then it seems like they'll just stage up offshore around the nearshore rigs and kind of free float and kind of wait for things to get right to move in. So I really feel like here it's more environmentally based than anything.
Yeah, what percentage of we don't have nearly as much outflow as you do, so our water is generally pretty clear. So I do most of mine sight fishing. Like, what percentage of yours are sight fishing versus going to some known spots and soaking some lures or baits on them?
So I used to be a pretty big blind fisherman, just fish anything and everything that was around me. And as the pressures increased on them, I kind of shifted gears on that. And going back to the analogy of lighting $100 bills on fire, I'm more apt to going and finding the fish now and targeting them than blind fishing, just because there's so many people here. I don't know how it is where y'all are, but there's so many people here targeting them now that I feel like my success rate and my catch rate is higher, being nimble and finding the fish and targeting the fish rather than spending time blind fishing for them.
Smart.
Yeah. Go for it.
I was pulling up the IGFA world record. All tackle, triple tail, 42 pounds, 5 ounces.
It's a big triple tail.
That's huge.
Yeah, the records are beasts.
And then in general, Port Canaveral has, I don't know, there's like 20 of them listed, and Port Canaveral has more than half of the triple tail records.
Yeah, that's the big triple tail mecca, supposedly. I've not gotten to fish down there, but that's on my bucket list to go down there and give it a whirl.
That's where old Peter Deeks does a lot of his triple tailing out of there.
Where was the biggest one from, Joe?
South Africa.
South Africa?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then basically Port Canaveral and Fort Pierce, which is close. That's wild.
Had a lot of Australians reach out to me. It seems like they're starting to target them more. So it'd be interesting to see if some monsters start coming out of that part of the world.
So Luke, what's your best month?
I don't know.
Again, one where you get fired up for triple tail?
Yeah, mine's pretty sporadic. I get fired up whenever I start seeing them, and that just is really sporadic. It's really dependent on how far I'm traveling for my normal fishing. The longer I'm traveling, the more likely I'll come across some of them. And then once I get the bug, then I'm like going after them for like 3-4 more trips in a row. So yeah, to me, like I got into a really good bite last summer, and then we had the red tide. It was really good, and then the red tide came and just totally wiped out everything. So it's really since red tide, I haven't actually had a good November, all small ones, but a bunch of them. And then all my normal spots in the bay still hasn't had them come back yet, which is a shame. So hopefully they come back soon.
Well, I think they probably will. I will tell you this, I've participated in tagging projects for a lot of years now, and a lot of the data that we've seen over that project, or it's actually 2 different projects, but to give you an inclination of, kind of what they might do, I tagged a fish one day and it swam 27 miles within 3 days.
Wow.
And it was recaptured 3 days later, 27 miles away from where we tagged it. So I think that if the conditions get bad, water quality wise, or there's no bait around, I think they're apt to move until they find a situation they're happy in. And they'll stay there as long as everything's right, and then they'll move again when it gets wrong there.
Yeah, my assumption, I didn't see any dead ones. With red tide, we had a lot of dead fish of all kinds. I didn't see any triple tail. So my hope is that they, like you mentioned, they probably sensed something was wrong, they bailed, and then and hopefully they come back in here. But yeah, I've been missing them lately.
Well, we did that with the satellite tag too. We actually brought one back to an area where the water quality wasn't as good, put the satellite tag in it, released it, and it made a beeline. And you can see on the satellite daily aerials where it was hanging out, it got out of the bad water and got to the quality water, which was pretty cool to see.
So when you say bad water, what are you looking for to clarify like bad water for triple tail?
Well, I mean, bait's got to be present first off. Here, if we get a big push of fresh, it can push all the bait out and the salinity goes down. I think that they're kind of like trout, where they like a certain, I don't think they're like redfish where they can kind of survive in any type of salinity as long as there's some salt. I think they want a certain salinity level, and they're going to move to where that level is, and then where there's food available to them.
Makes sense. Heck, they're dinosaurs. They got to be pretty resilient, been around forever.
It always cracks me up when people call them dinosaurs too, because their lifespan is, according to the researchers, is not that long. I think it's like 6 or 7 years is the average lifespan, and their growth rate is incredible. There's been fish that we've tagged in the beginning part of the summer that were, say, 20, 19, 20 pounds. And by the end of the summer, got up to close to 24, 25 pounds.
Wow.
Which is crazy growth rate for a fish.
That's wild. Luke, what was the month when you and me and Pat went out there and killed them?
Yeah, I believe that was October. That was when we
Okay.
were on a really good bite. All small, but I mean, it was I'd have like 20 days, like 20 triple tail days, and that was the best I've had.
Yeah, that
And
was
then,
just,
and then now that whole area is just totally dead and nothing's there.
and that was just cruising up, and the benefit of having a full tower or half tower. I mean, you can see so much, you can go faster, and we just cruised down the buoys and channel markers, and all of a sudden you see a couple, and then on the next one's got 2 or 3 more, and it was like, whoa, it was, man, that was such a blast. They were just shy too. I mean, a couple of them were right there, and they changed the limit here in Florida.
Yeah, all lures too. We were testing out the new Power Prawn USA Juniors that we were putting together, and they were just all over it. So it was really cool to see.
Yeah, I got to try one of those. I haven't been able to get one yet.
We'll make sure they just came out here recently, and
oh no, that's what I'm saying. I hadn't gotten my hands on one. I'm interested to see it, to put my hands on it.
Had a wild day when those were released. So the other thing we always try to bring up is, the where, what type of spots, which we covered, and then we kind of talked about the wind. The other part of wind that people always ask about, regardless of what type of fish it is tides. Does it matter with triple tail? What are your thoughts there?
I feel like they don't like the tide ripping really hard personally. So generally I try to time my trips around the tide change. But this year again, because of some circumstances, I had to fish sometimes when it was in the middle of the tide swing and it was ripping out, and we were just cruising along, and we found a wad of them. So I don't know if that theory holds water anymore. I think as long as they're in the mood to feed, and a lot of that I think has to do with that salinar stuff that y'all always talk about. But if they're in the mood to feed, then they're going to come up and feed and give you an opportunity to get a shot at them.
Have you noticed the difference on moon phase, whether it's like a full moon with no clouds? I don't know are they night feeders at all, or are they mostly day feeders? I've caught all mine during daylight, and sometimes
I have gone a couple times at night to experiment, and I've seen fish. I've not been able to get them to eat. And it's a lot harder to do it at night because obviously you're not moving as fast. You can't cover ground. But I have experimented with trying to catch them at night. So I don't know if they're just shut down once the sun goes down. It's strictly a daytime thing for them, or what. But I've not been able to get them to eat at night.
How about moon phase, like full moon versus new moon, or no difference?
I don't know that it necessarily matters. I think maybe a full moon might help move some fish in because it's lighting up the sky, and I think maybe they're moving during the night and moving into the estuaries. But I mean, I've caught them during all phases of the salinar. I don't know if that really matters.
Let's talk about leader line. What are you using?
Well, we're fishing a lot of hard structure around here. And when I'm doing that, I'm using a heavier leader, a 30-pound leader. If we're fishing more crab pots and stuff like that, I'll go down to a 20-pound leader a lot of the times. But somewhere in that range.
Mono or fluoro? Fluoro.
And I know you are big mono guys, but that's what I grew up on, and that's I've just kind of stuck with what's worked for me.
Oh, hey, no, we're not judging. We're not judging at all. I got fluoro. I got fluoro here in this room right now.
If you would see the setup that some of these guys down here used to call a Calcutta pole. I don't know if that's big down there, but and a guy donated one to the fishing tournament, and it's all like 150-pound braid or some stupid high strength value braid. There's no mono, no fluoro on it. All the give is in the Calcutta pole, and some of the size triple tail that I've seen videos caught on these things is incredible.
Is that for getting just the giants off the poles? I'm assuming.
Yep, see where you can just completely manhandle them.
Or you go down like a real man with a spear gun and spear them. Remember that, Luke? We were in Louisiana and we were going after the big bull reds in a little skiff, and we came back and everyone comes back to the lodge, and these two guys were spearfishing. They hired a guy to take them out there and hit those oil rigs, and he came back. Do you remember how many pounds it was, Luke?
It was around 30. It was a big one.
Yeah, it was a monster. And I mean, fed everyone there at the lodge that Tripletail. We all had that night, and I was like, holy smokes. That's how you do it right there. Free diving. Woo.
Now, I don't know that I'd want to be attached to a 30-pound Tripletail swimming off with tied to my arm.
I agree. Those things they're shockingly strong for how little they move when they're just sitting there. They look like they're just just super lazy and slow critter. And then as soon as they're hooked, they just go blue. They even jump too. Like it's they really go crazy, and they can pull really hard.
I was fighting one last year, and we're just drifting off the structure fighting it. And all of a sudden, this bigger fish jumps out of the water and cuts a flip like a dolphin. And I was like, what in the world? And we finished catching the first fish, and we rode back to the nearest structure that was where he kind of jumped out in the middle of the air, and there he was, and we caught him. I mean, they'll do some crazy things.
Nuts. Well, let's talk about this Tripletail Championship. How did it come about? What's the deal? What's the prizes? There's some conservation involved.
Yeah, so I came up with the idea this past Christmas break. I was at home between Christmas and New Year's with my kids, and I don't know how it is where y'all are, but the pressure here has gotten really insane on them. And it used to feel like a wave of fish would move in and it would last for 4 to 6 weeks. And now they can get knocked back within a week or two, it feels like, to where it gets slow again. So, my idea was to come up with a way to incentivize people, 1, through glory, and 2, through prizes and monetary gain. And maybe we could get some of these fish put back in the water to where, there's more opportunity for the dad that doesn't get to fish but once a month, and he's going to go out on the weekend. He wants to target them with his kids. There might be some more fish out there. So that's where the idea was founded. We're still working on all the prizes. We've got some sponsors that have donated some sponsorships, and then some actual prizes. Islamorada Stewart Boatworks is our boat sponsor, and they've donated some money for some prizes. Cajun Rods has donated rods to the prize packs. Smith Optics has donated some sunglasses. And then Killer Dock, which is a fish cleaning station that's made up here in Mobile, they donated a cleaning station to the Grand Champion. We can kind of go through the formats of the categories if y'all want to do that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about it.
So what we're going to do is the 3 main categories. The first one would be longest fish. The second one would be most fish caught over 18 inches, because we don't want to encourage people to target juvenile fish that are not legal anyways, because those fish seem to be more aggressive, and a lot of times they can get injured when you catch them, and even when you put them back, they don't make it. And then total cumulative inches of fish over 18 inches. And between those 3 categories, we're going to have a point system that's going to award a grand champion based on how you score in those 3 categories. And then aside from that, we're going to have an average Joe category that's going to pay out multiple places, depending on how many people enter the tournament, or depend on how many places we pay out in each division. But I think it's 3 in just about every division for the first level, and then it goes up to 4, and then it goes up to 5 places. But in the average Joe, whoever gets closest to the average length will win that prize. And then we're also going to have territorial regions. So right now we have it set up as Texas as a region, Louisiana as a region, Mississippi as a region, Alabama as a region, and Florida's divided into 3 regions, basically kind of like the Florida Gulf Coast, and then the south tip of Florida, and then the Atlantic coast. And then that way kind of levels the playing, and that's going to be longest fish in those regional categories. And that kind of levels the playing field for people that, might be in an area that, some areas get a lot of numbers, some areas get a lot, get more quality fish. So that kind of, level the playing field out for those folks.
Too cool. And then it's 6 months long. Oh.
It's 6 months long, catch and release. Fishing Chaos is, I don't know if y'all know who they are, but they're an online platform that does all kinds of different things from fishing clubs, fishing tournaments to like my charter business. They help me manage my bookings and all that stuff. So they're gonna, it's an online platform that you submit your entries through that. There's live leaderboards. They keep up with all that stuff for you, and you can register online from anywhere in the country.
Too cool.
Cool.
And the dates, it's May 1st is when it kicks off.
It's going to kick off May 1st and then end on October 31st.
Too cool. We'll have to. And what's the cost to get in? Is it site up and everything yet?
So right now it's $250 to get in, and we also have a promotion for that Calcutta pole. Don Gaucher is a local Mississippian, built this Calcutta pole, and he donated it to the tournament. And if you sign up before April 1st, it's about a $200 setup. You'll be entered into a drawing to win that pole. And then if you sign up before May 1st, it's still $250. You can enter it after May 1st, but the price goes up to $300. But you have to be registered a full 24 hours in advance of catching a fish that you want to enter into the contest.
Makes sense. That's awesome, man. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be good to see everybody out there competing and talking smack to one another and see who gets crowned the grand champion.
And so you said catch and release, meaning if someone keeps keeper and keeps it disqualified, or how does that work?
Yeah, they have to release the fish to enter it into the contest.
Okay.
I mean, we're not I'm not the type of person that says you can't kill any fish, but we want to promote conservation. So
Yeah.
if you want to catch one to eat, put one up way to eat, and then your next one, if you want to catch it and enter into the tournament, then enter that one into the tournament. What we're trying to encourage people to do, instead of killing everything they catch, is to be responsible and keep what they can eat, and then have fun with the tournament with the rest of them they catch.
It's good. Love that. We need more of it.
Absolutely. There's only more of us getting on the water every day. I mean, boat sales are any indication, there's more and more people fishing now than ever before. And if we don't start self-regulating, we're all going to be in a world of hurt, in my opinion.
Yep, I agree. Unless they just run out of engines, which is kind of happening. Slowing it down a little bit.
A lot of people are just
You only have to
floating
wait a year right now.
That's funny. Well, cool. Anything else about the tournament, or is there a website? I know you have like your charter business website. Is that the best place to find it right now, or where do we go?
There's a link on my charter fishing website, which is irishwakefishing.com, or you can go to tripletailchampionship.com, and all the information is there. The link to register, the rules. I've got some more information that'll be posted on potential payouts because we are. A lot of people have been asking questions. I guess we didn't make it too clear. But after the tournament expenses, we're paying out all the entry fees to the winners.
Cool.
So if we can get some good participation, we're going to have some really good cash prizes to go along with the actual physical prizes.
That's awesome. And I got to know, how do you come up with Irish Wake Fishing as your charter business?
So when I first started fishing, the real, what I call my first real fishing boat, because my first one was kind of like that entry-level boat that everybody buys, and then you figure out I didn't even have a trolling motor on that one. So my next boat that I bought was really fast, and my heritage is half Irish and half Italian. And my tournament partner looked at me, he's like, well, you can either be the Italian stallion or the Irish wake. And Italian stallion was just a little too presumptuous for me, so I went with the Irish wake, and it kind of stuck.
This is a good move. Good move. Yeah.
Good choice.
Yeah. Italian stallion or Irish wake.
You'd have to know him to know his personality. He was pushing for that. I'll be taking it.
That's a hoot. That's a hoot. Well, Brother Jay, thanks again for coming on and talking about this, and for all your help in the past. We appreciate you big time, and looking forward
appreciate
to
y'all having me.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing more on this tournament. And I might have to call Captain. I just need one day with Peter Deeks, go to Port Canaveral, and we might have to enter this sucker.
Get that longest fish.
Yeah, get at least the longest fish, and then hit up Tampa just to get numbers. So,
well, that's the beautiful part about how we have it designed. If you're a Louisiana resident and you go over to Florida, you can still compete in the Florida territory while you're there, because Fishing Chaos has location specific stuff in their software that when you enter your fish, the picture on the measuring device it's going to tell them if you're in Florida or you're in Louisiana. So you can actually compete all across the Gulf Coast with the entry fee.
Just make sure to get your non-resident fishing license. We don't need any of you Louisianans coming over here and fishing our waters without your licenses.
That is in the tournament rules. You have to be legal and valid to make an entry. So we got you covered there.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll make sure to put all the links in the show notes as well. So if you guys have any questions about the tournament or just catching tripletail in general, let us know. We'll have a whole lot more here later on this, and I'm looking forward to seeing I'm really just seeing this leaderboard and seeing the size of some of these tripletail. Always fascinating to see these things. And no, they're not dinosaurs, but they do look prehistoric because they're just funky looking fish, and they are so stinking mean, as Luke said. Almost got bit by one like an alligator snapping turtle. Was that alligator snapping turtle? Bit my daughter. Anyhow, until the next episode, once again, saltshore.com/fishing-tips, or go to saltshore.com, click up the top of fishing tips. You'll see this blog right there, or this podcast in the blog right there. And at the very bottom is where you can leave the comments. It'll come right to us, and we'll get back to you pronto. Well, it's Captain Jay. Appreciate you, brother. And we will talk to you guys in the next episode. Peace.
See y'all.